Travis Brown is a writer, director and editor whose new documentary is called Uncomfortable Truths, the Reality of Gender Identity Ideology. The series is designed to help people better understand what it describes as the trans movement and outlines what can be done to help people who may have been negatively impacted by such an ideology. Here's a little clip first.
These people are pushing this, right? And these people are pushing against this and calling us weirdos and freaks and everything that I had hoped that would never happen again. But now because of this, those people have ammunition to again call us freaks and weirdos and that we're doing this to children. We're literally giving them the ammunition to set us back in our rights and where we are. I was living a comfortable life. So were all my trans friends. Now we're teaching kids that they're not boys and girls? How do you think that's gonna translate to the rest of the world? It's going to make people think we are insane and that we are indoctrinating children into a belief system that is not real.
And the director of Uncomfortable Truths, Travis Brown, joins me now. I'm really grateful for you coming on. I think this is a very interesting topic. And the clip that we just saw featured Buck Angel,
right,
who is a trans man, in other words, was born female,
right,
but lives as a man. It is very interesting to hear Buck Angel talking about how trans activism has actually done more harm than good for trans people. That's something we often don't talk about. What's going on there, do you think?
Totally, yeah. Well, so Buck transitioned about 30 years ago. So Buck was kind of almost like a guinea pig on this. He lived in California and figured out what worked best for him. And you know, then we had this new kind of contingent of trans people or people that identify as trans come along with this ideology to suggest that you don't even need surgery anymore. You don't need to do any of these hormones or any of these treatments. You can just identify into this. And they've just become very puritanical and cult-like. And anyone who doesn't agree with them, you know, is a bigot. And you need to transition your children as soon as they identify this way. And so I think, you know, Buck is really a passionate advocate for not transitioning children and for just waiting and seeing, you know, how somebody develops and whether or not, you know, this is a good path for someone to go down.
I mean, it's very interesting that you say that because, you know, a lot of trans people have made this point. It isn't easy going through what they've gone through. You know, that they,
sure,
you know, there are a very small minority of people who, for whatever reason, have to present as the other sex, whether that is through surgery or presentation or whatever, and they have this issue, this problem. But you have a lot of people now saying that none of that is necessary. You can just declare, just self-identification.
Exactly, yeah.
But, I mean, would you have sympathy with those people who feel that they have to present as the other sex?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not sure I'm convinced of that after speaking with many therapists and doing all the interviews and the research I've done. I think it's possible that perhaps everyone could, you know, alleviate their gender distress with the right treatment. I think that's certainly possible. That's something that's not discussed often enough. However, I have no problem, you know, Buck as an adult wants to do that and is not influenced by this cultish ideology, but just feels like this is the best path for Buck. I think people should be free to do that.
And we've seen a lot of people sort of suggest that the self-identification is all that's required. There was a story this week about a Spanish soldier who says he's going to make no effort to change his appearance or anything, but wants access to women's changing rooms.
Right.
This seems to be getting, this is something that's happening more and more, and I don't think this reflects well on if there is a trans community, on that community.
Right. Yeah, whether or not there's a trans community is debatable, but certainly online and certain contingents of, especially in the United States, like in Portland where I used to live, there are, you know, there's what they call Trantifa, which is Antifa and trans mixed together.
We should say that Antifa is a group, they're based on the phrase anti-fascism, and the way that they prove their anti-fascism is to go around beating up people who don't agree with them.
Correct.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
So Trantifa, this is a trans...
Yeah. Andy Noah's covered this quite a lot, but no, it's clearly not doing the people who are distressed about their gender any good for these people to be pushing this on kids, pushing this on. Ultimately, parents suffer a lot from this as well because, you know, as your guest last week was talking about in Scotland, they're going to criminalize not, affirming your child.
Now, is this where things go a bit far? Because I think when children are involved, people are going to say no more. They're not going to stand for that, right?
Yeah, I mean, you'd hope so. Certainly a lot of people are waking up, for the lack of a better phrase, to this problem, especially because younger and younger kids are being pushed into using puberty blockers and taking cross-sex hormones and even surgeries. And now we have data on this. Komodo Health did a study on insurance claims, and it shows the numbers in the United States, how many kids are now being assigned this disorder, gender dysphoria, as well as all these kids, little children below 18 that are getting double mastectomies, that are taking cross-sex hormones, that are being sterilized for life. So we have the numbers on this. But unfortunately, a lot of people will still double down, especially if it's a parent who believes in the ideology. They think, oh, my kid is trans, therefore, I mean, those people are the craziest activists.
Do you think that a lot of this is to do with the way kids are informed about this stuff? I mean, in this country, the BBC put out a video where someone was saying that there are over 100 genders, and they were saying this to children, to a group of children. That's coming from the state broadcaster, right?
Yeah.
So this, why can't children be taught that no human being has ever changed sex, nobody is born in the wrong body, but that a very small minority of people do suffer from a thing that we call gender dysphoria? Because is that, to some extent, to blame for the social contagion we're seeing?
Absolutely. There's a number of factors, and TikTok and YouTube is contributing to it as well. But in the United States, it's also the case that kids are being taught, there are these gender expansive lesson plans for kids. They don't need to learn about this at all. I never talked about gender, thought about it when I was growing up. Most people, I don't think the average kid needs to learn about this at all. If they do learn about it, they should have a balanced viewpoint and say, the parents should inform them that this is something that's sort of on the horizon so they can kind of prepare for it. But most kids, as we know, grow out of this, and so it's...
What do you make of this? I mean, I've found, it would seem that a lot of the research is suggesting that animosity towards the gay community is on the rise as a result of this notion that there is an LGBTQIA plus community,
right,
and that all of them are trying to effectively indoctrinate children into this strange new religion.
Yeah, that acronym now includes numbers. It's ever expanding.
2S as well.
Right. Yeah. There's Gays Against Groomers who are constantly. It's a group of gays and lesbians that are pushing back against this because they don't want children to be, groomed. And so there are some people that are pushing back against that. But there's this almost joke about transing the gay away that was apparently told at Tavistock. I interviewed Marcus and Sue Evans, who blew the whistle on Tavistock. And it's devastating to think that, these poor young kids who are likely going to turn out to be gay are getting these, surgeries and these hormones and these things that will really ruin their lives.
It just feels very regressive, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So you mentioned you spoke to a couple of the whistleblowers from the Tavistock clinic.
Yeah.
Who else is featuring in the film that you've made?
So in addition to Buck Angel, I interviewed Helen Joyce. She's an author that wrote the book Trans, When Ideology Meets Reality. She was fantastic. She invited me to a conference on gender in Ireland, and so I got to interview Stella O'Malley, the founder of GenSpect, Sasha Ayad, who's a therapist. I've done 20-plus interviews, and they're all just amazing people.
And have you been able to talk to many trans people?
A few. I've also tried to reach out to the people who are pro-gender affirming care. In other words, that want to, affirm a child's gender at the first sign. However, most of those people don't want to talk to me. They don't want to talk and put their own views out there, which I find really unfortunate, because you'd think that they would want to promote what they're doing, but they don't even want to talk to me.
Well, this is the problem I faced on this show. I've always invited people of that belief because I want to hear what they've got to say.
Totally.
But activists such as Stonewall have always said we won't have a debate on this. You either agree or we're not going to talk to you. Well, you're not going to persuade anyone, are you?
Right.
Finally, Travis, could you tell people where people can see Uncomfortable Truths, your documentary?
Yeah, totally. So I have a Locals, and you can sign up. It's travisbrown.locals.com. The first episode is out on there, and then I have YouTube, which I put a lot of stuff on YouTube, which is @BecomeTheSignal.
@BecomeTheSignal. Fantastic. Yeah. Travis Brown, thank you for joining us.